Hello, my name is Tony. Once upon a time, in a decade far, far away, a film that will remain unnamed perfected the art of the grab-bag approach to movie making, and in so doing, set the template for such hitherto unimaginable financial success that it would become a boilerplate default setting for the future. What you do is this. You pick a bunch of genres or types of film and TV media, let's say sci-fi, sword and sorcery, medieval, swashbuckler, Saturday morning cliffhanger serials, westerns, and you leverage elements from all of those and mash them all up in a script writing blender, and hey presto, you've got something new and shiny, and by its very nature, derivative. Now, derivative is not always a dirty word, because if cherry-picking the good stuff and creatively applying it is done with care and respect and attention and some innovative smarts, you can make some pretty tasty ready meals for the microwave oven minds of the masses. Reinvention, rejigging and reconstituting are things that the film industry has long thrived upon. Little in the world is truly original, apart from Tupperware maybe, and no one seems to want that much anymore, but even if it's something that's not very good, it can still turn a substantial buck. Paul McCartney's awful dirge Mull of Kintyre, Krull of Misfire for the purposes of this vid, was a long repetitive drone into a void of soul-destroying banality, a cynical cookie-cutter folk stealathon that sold over 2 million copies in the UK alone and was top of the charts for 9 weeks over Christmas '77. Why? Because it follows the simple monotonous rhythm of a yak bone being tapped on a membrane of stretched goatskin. It spikes that primal nerve. It's instantly familiar when you first hear it, and it sounds like a song you've heard before, only you can't get a fix on where exactly. Although familiarity can indeed breed contempt, people very often like familiarity in a big way, because it reassures them and it makes them feel good, the dumb undemanding bastards. Krull then, the movie, is derivative. It's a film that looked at the film that shall not speak its name and thought, grab bag, I can do that, and it could, and it did. Yes, it did. The potential pitfall of chucking everything, including the kitchen sink and your granny's antique vaginal truss, into a big melting pot and bringing it to the boil means that you could end up with a big stinking godforsaken mess on your hands. So the question here becomes, is Krull that big stinking godforsaken mess, or does it have enough positives to redeem itself with? I can only tell you how I see it and what I think. If that's something you don't care to know, then there are two things you can do ending in the word off and beginning with the words turn and fuck. The apparent aim was to emulate the success of an earlier grab-bag mega hit, that much is obvious. So to this end, when foraging around for things to pilfer, draw inspiration from, the makers cast their net wide and trawled in science fiction, Arthurian legend, Greek mythology, sword and sorcery, horror fantasy, swashbuckling movies, war and western flicks. There might be a bit of Shakespearean drama bunged in there too. Choice of director was a curious one, being the man who gave us the detective cop genre redefinition Bullet with Steve McQueen, as well as the superb The Friends of Eddie Coyle and the not so superb The Deep. Yep, Peter Yates doing his thing. Score was by James Titanic Horner, cinematography undertaken by Peter Suchitsky, who previously lensed Figures in a Landscape, The Rocky Horror Picture Show and The Empire Strikes Back. Later, he would be David Cronenberg's go-to visualizer after Dead Ringers in 1988. If you like lists and stats, the special effects and visual effects teams numbered over 45 personnel, and the stunt team more than 53. Overseeing the stunt work was veteran coordinator Vic Armstrong, who had a long and productive association with the Bond films. Studio Columbia Pictures were throwing some serious money and resources at it, gotta give them that, until it came to the script and story and leading actors. The original screenplay was by Sanford Sherman, whose past credits included working on the 60s Adam West Batman TV series and co-scripting the Clint Eastwood comedy sequel to Any Which Way But Loose, the highly intellectual, hilariously gut-busting powerhouse Any Which Way You Can. I'm not being serious with that description. The Any Which Way films are probably my least appreciated Eastwood outings, about as funny as anthrax in a sherbet dip. How Mr. Sherman got the gig writing this is a mystery, but he surely did. It strikes me as odd that when it came to casting the leads, they went for two little-known talents. Ken Marshall's claim to fame was playing Marco Polo in a mini-series called Marco Polo, and Lisette Anthony had been Lady Rowena in a TV version of Ivanhoe. That certainly set my world on fire with burning expectations of greatness. Still, let's not be judgmental. Yet. There was some quality talent in the supporting cast though. Freddie Jones, Francesca Annis, Liam Neeson, Alan Armstrong, Robbie Coltrane, David Batley, Bernard Bresslaw. Bernard Bresslaw was famous for playing a hulking, dim-witted doofus in the Carry On films. Here he's playing a hulking, one-eyed Cyclops. Right, okay. So what's it about then? Krull is a planet of medieval magic and mystery ruled over by two kings, Tyrol, Tony Church, and Eirik, Bernard Archard. They're in perpetual conflict, a situation that their respective children, Colwyn, Ken Marshall, and Lissa, Lisette Anthony, aim to resolve by marrying, and thus uniting the two kingdoms. To make matters worse, a big spaceship shaped like a mountain range has landed. The ship, known as the Black Fortress, belongs to a great big shape-shifting reptilian entity known as the Beast, who, with his armed force, the Slayers have invaded Krull and seek to dominate and enslave the whole world. At the wedding, the Slayers attack, killing the two kings, wounding Colwyn, and abducting Lissa, taking her to the Black Fortress. The Beast wants to force her to marry him instead and rule the world together. Sort of Beauty and the Beast with totalitarian undertones and a pinch of Mein Kampf. A prophet and sage, Aeneas the Old One, Freddie Jones, tends to the wounded Colwyn and tells him of a mystical artifact, the glaive, which, wouldn't you know it, is the one thing capable of killing the Beast. All they must do is find it, locate the Black Fortress, which moves to different locations every day or so, breach its defences, whack old Beastie with the glaive, and rescue the princess. Piece of piss. Along the way, they team up with Alan Armstrong's bandit leader Torquil and his gang of escaped convicts, a bungling magician Ergo the Magnificent, David Batley, who can turn himself into a variety of animals, and the warrior Cyclops Rel, Bernard Bresslaw. To add interest, Torquil's band of merry men include early showings from future stars Liam Neeson as Keegan, an axe-wielding polygamist, and Robbie Coltrane as Rune, who looks like a live version of a cartoon circus strongman. And we're off on an epic journey quest, battle and series of confrontations across the shifting landscapes of Krull. Gotta hand it to this film, it doesn't want for imagination, sweep, vision or incident. Neither does it want for a series of misfiring elements and a reliance on convenient alternative methods of getting the job done popping up in a very stage-managed and inorganic way, which is a major fault in how it's written and executed. What's good, what strikes as decent quality, is Horner's rousing fanfare of a score, which is a major plus point. Add to this Suchitsky's breathtaking cinematography, especially in the glorious location shoots filmed in Italy and Dartmoor in the UK. Krull is a good-looking film with some magnificent exterior vistas feeding the eye. Credit must also go to the interior soundstage constructions and the set design, which for the time has some unique artistry power in it. Same goes for the special visual effects, which, although they look macho crapo today, have some nostalgic Ray Harryhausen elements propping them up. Especially cool is when a Slayer is killed. It releases a high-pitched squeal, its helmet splits open, and a red slug-like parasite emerges and burrows into the ground. I liked it anyway. Equally smart is how our heroes are disadvantaged in combat by only having handheld weapons, whilst the Slayers have swords which fire laser bolts. It adds an extra edge to the fight scenes wherein our team must improvise to prevail or run the fuck away. What ain't so hot is, it's a messy combination of genres that struggle to coalesce into its own singular thing, and in that respect is only partially successful. The script and narrative are mercilessly bog standard and hopelessly contrived. When something the protagonists try doesn't work, there's something else that hasn't been mentioned before that will replace it. How it goes is, the only thing that can kill the Beast is the glaive, a combination of throwing star, boomerang and frisbee. But as it's in a cave high in the mountains, Colwyn has to climb up there to retrieve it. Only then they don't know where the Black Fortress is. The blind emerald seer, John Welsh, can locate it, so they find him in his cave with his cute child assistant Titch, Graham McGrath. Why must there always be some fucking cute kid? Why do we need that? The blind emerald seer, a blind seer is something of a contradiction, yeah, uses an emerald crystal to see what he sees, but the Beast's hand magically appears and crushes it, so he ain't seeing shit. But wait, if the blind emerald seer and his cute child assistant take our guys through a perilous swamp to a lost temple, he can blindly see shit there. On the way, one of the Beast's changelings kills the blind emerald seer. Oh no, we're fucked. lost. How will we find the fortress now? But wait! The widow of the web, Francesca Annis, Aeneas' ex-lover and killer of their infant son, who has been banished forever to the lair of the crystal spider for her crimes, she'll know where the Black Fortress is. When Aeneas visits her, finds out where the fortress is, returns to tell the gang, he then inconveniently dies, and the fortress is so far away that they will never get there before it moves again. But wait! Fire mares! What? Fire mares! What the fuck are fire mares? Burgermeisters that spontaneously combust? No, wild horses that catch fire and fly. If we capture some of them puppies, they'll get us there in time on their backs. I remember a critic of the time likening it to painting yourself into a corner, then suddenly developing the ability to levitate to avoid stepping in the fresh paint. But that's how she runs, throwing up some random, inexplicable anomalies as she goes. Like, after travelling through the swamp on foot, when they emerge the other side, Colwyn and co are on horseback. Where'd the fucking nags come from? It's this lack of continuity and context prevalent throughout that lets the storyline and the film down badly. And while we're on the subject, when the glaive doesn't quite kill the beast, how come Colwyn's arm turns into a flamethrower that incinerates the ugly reptilian fucker and causes the Black Fortress to collapse, a talent he'd not previously showcased? It's not just that. Ken Marshall and Lisette Anthony are woefully inadequate leads. They have all the charisma, chemistry and screen presence of medieval Barbie and Ken. If they'd made action figures to go with this film, I'd bet theirs were uncanny likenesses. Their cause is not helped by the vapid dialogue their characters are given. Saving grace is on the acting front or in the supporting cast, who provide some gravitas and energy, playing it with a positive degree of conviction. Real actors doing real acting, Freddie Jones and Francesca Annis bring some rare poignancy and pathos to their brief scenes together. And Armstrong, Coltrane and Neeson seldom fail to deliver, adding some fun and pantomime relish. For me, it's improved with age. Mine, not the film's necessarily, preferring it many times over to the one whose name shall not be spoken. When I first saw it on the big screen, I didn't rate it much. I like it better now. It's nonsensical, illogical, at times laughable, and not in a funny ha-ha way either, so you won't be splitting your sides wide open. Yet there are some amazingly creative sonics and visuals to keep you occupied, and it manages to step lively throughout, insofar as there's always something else around the corner to provide sustained amusement. Some critics found it dull and boring, but the way I see it, there's enough amalgamated rip and snort up in there to rescue it from descending into sheer tedium. It's not a great or even good film, however, it is a busy and undemanding one that does manage to generate a distinct look and feel which, over time, and like so many others, has contributed to a reasonably well-deserved cult status. With the absence of nauseatingly cute robots, ugly cuddly toys, and villains with hay fever and inverted coal scuttles on their heads, it makes a much more attractive proposition in my book. Thanks a bunch for your time and attention. Please, if you can face it, take some time to hit like, didn't like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, have a poke at the super thanks button, or check out my Patreon page. Take your pick and mix, or abstain and be on your way. I won't hold it against you, whatever you choose to do. Now I must away to the nearest booze emporium to replenish my sanity. This might take a while, pilgrims. Krull of Misfire. The beast is a murderous pig. My desire to shove the glaive right up his